But I think sustainability, what it does is it brings it all to the forefront and goes, this is everyone's problem.
Yeah.
This is not just something we're going to report about. This is something, motherhood in and of itself is activism. Because who has the largest influence on the next? We're here for a short time. Like, what kind of life are we living if we're not actually considering what?
Infrastructure is often measured in outputs. Kilometres of road delivered, projects completed, budgets met. But what sits beneath those outcomes is rarely captured in the metrics. The pressure on people, the weight of responsibility, the growing expectation that projects do more than deliver assets, that they contribute to something bigger. And within that shift, sustainability has moved from a concept to a requirement. Yet the way it is understood, resourced and embedded still feels unresolved. For many working in the space, it is not just technical, it's personal. Ashley Hernandez has built her career inside that tension, from engineering foundations to leading sustainability thinking across infrastructure. She has experienced both the ambition of the industry and the realities of trying to implement change within it. Her perspective is shaped not only by projects and frameworks, but by a clear alignment to values and the decisions she has made to build a career that reflects them. In this conversation, we explore what sustainability really means in practice, why the industry continues to struggle to resource and prioritise it effectively, and how personal choices, family and values ultimately shape the way we contribute to the built environment. Welcome to the Building Doors podcast. Welcome to the Building Doors podcast. It always feels funny saying that when we're like chatting beforehand as well, but it's like we're ready to record live. Ashley, you were actually recommended to me as a guest, so I'm very excited to get you on. Your career path really is interesting to me as well through the engineering and sustainability. But one of the things I always start with, because I think it's really interesting, is to ask the question, why did you choose the path you chose? So, and I think for you it's kind of twofold. Why did you choose engineering initially, and what led you to sustainability?
Okay, well, the first part of that, engineering, I was originally interested in architecture. And I still am very much, but I didn't get the grades to get into the course. It's a very popular course at university. And so I thought, well, engineering might be the next best thing. Mm-hmm. My late grandfather was a highly intelligent engineer, worked on a lot of dam projects in Brisbane, and he was the one who actually introduced me to the engineering world. I went to an all-girls school and never really got the idea that engineering was an option from that. So it really came from having someone in my family who was an engineer. And then I was obviously interested in the architecture side of things, and then fell into civil engineering thinking I'll go do structural engineering because that's in the same sort of realm, buildings, that sort of thing. I ended up getting my work experience in the transport sector and really actually enjoyed it. And so just kind of like gave up on the whole structures thing. Yeah. And I sort of like the idea of being involved in like really big picture stuff that was really tangible in the built environment, like that big road. The Eastern Busway was actually my first project.
Oh, wow.
So the very first line drawn on a piece of paper for the Eastern Busway was mine, which is really cool to like think of that I was, how old was I at the time? I think I was 19 in my first like work experience job.
Yeah.
And that was my first foray into the engineering world. So it was really cool to work on something like that. And so I sort of got more interest in sort of public transit, that sort of thing, what we'd call sustainable transport now. But sustainability just wasn't something that we sort of talked about in the engineering world. When it did kind of come along, it was like, oh, that's something the enviros do. And so it never occurred to me to kind of get into that realm. So, I mean, environment and all of that was always something that really interested me, and something I've always been passionate about. But I never thought that it would kind of collide with what I was doing in like a technical sense.
Yeah.
And so my engineering career sort of took me from the design consultancy world in like a big firm into a little bit into construction. And then I had the opportunity to move to the Middle East in 2008. And so I took that opportunity, you know, being young, early 20s, hadn't bought a house or anything tying me down, and went, why not?
Yeah.
You know? So I went over to Abu Dhabi and I spent 4.5 years over there working for the same organization. And really, I loved being overseas and, you know, getting to experience different cultures, that sort of thing. But it was while I was there that we had a client at the Department of Transport that said, okay, on this project that you guys are designing, we want a green kilometre. And we went, well, what is that?
Yeah, and I meant to ask you the other day, what is a green kilometre?
What is a green kilometre? And that was a great question.
Yeah.
And our client went, well, I don't know. But it was sort of when like green everything was kind of up and coming. So it was probably about 2010 at that point. And so sustainability was sort of up and coming, but it hadn't really like crossed from like, that's just the touchy-feely stuff the enviros do to this is a real part of the engineering world now. And so I was like, okay, well, what do we do? Like I'll just go and research what a green kilometre is. And so I discovered all of these like infrastructure sustainability rating systems. And I thought, okay, well, it's obviously like a green building, because we had green buildings at that point, like the Green Star rated buildings. And so I thought, okay, well, this is great. There is some stuff out there already. So there's some, you know, there was Sequol in the UK, there was Envision and Green Roads in the US. And then ISK was just in its sort of infancy in Australia. And actually Vic Roads had a rating system as well. I think it was called Invest. And so I sort of gathered all those together and started looking at what this was and just saw huge value in it. And just went, okay, well, this is the answer here. So on that particular project, we ended up choosing Green Roads because it was, you know, it was sort of built for roads. So it was a bit more sort of fit for purpose for what we were doing.
Why did you see value in it? Because I'm interested, because I'm not an engineer. So I'm interested, like what about it piqued your interest where you're like, this is really.
I had an interest in like the environmental aspects of like what we do as transport engineers and designing roads and highways. I always consider myself a Jill of all trades.
Yeah.
I like to know about a lot of things, right? Rather than being like a real sort of specialist. So I'd previously dabbled in road safety, traffic engineering, pedestrian cyclist design, public transport design, like the busway design. And through all of that, you kind of get a lot of like the urban design and a bit of sort of the softer side and the more community focused side of transport infrastructure rather than just highways. And because I sort of had that interest in like knowing about all of it, I think that really sort of set the stage for me to find that value in sustainability and go, oh, this is where all of this comes together. And yeah, so the value to me was, how do we build better infrastructure for the world? Like all encompassing, for the environment, for our children, for, you know, for social equity, for all of it.
Yeah.
And balancing all of that. Yeah. Because sort of historically it's just been, you know, progress in like a capitalism sense at all costs.
Yeah.
You know, and we've obviously seen like our environment suffer. We've seen communities suffer through disconnection, you know, and all the environmental impacts that come with projects. And I was like, this is a great way to kind of bring it all together and make it all talk to each other. Because so often, you know, historically, you know, you do the impact statements, but all that stuff kind of happens in silos. And it was a case of like you design and then it goes to the other disciplines and then they do the impact assessment on it and then, we build it, right? But I think sustainability, what it does is it brings it all to the forefront and goes, this is everyone's problem.
Yeah.
This is not just something we're going to report about. This is something we're going to integrate. And the rating systems are a great way to do that because they bring it all together. They standardize it. They lay out the expectations for what is sustainability, right? And sustainability evolves. And, the goalpost keeps moving. And as frustrating as that can be when you're working in the industry and you finally think you've got a hold on it.
Nope, no, I don't.
It's like, no, the goalpost keeps moving. It's like innovation. What we considered innovative 15 years ago is common practice now. And so the goalpost on innovation keeps moving. The goalpost on sustainability is going to keep moving. We talk a lot about moving towards net zero, that sort of thing. It's going to take a long while to get there. And we've got to take one step at a time. And so, as sort of frustrating as that one step at a time can be, we need frameworks and ways to, make those steps. And I think that's sort of where the rating systems and assessments or whatever sort of form that happens in, because there's so many different ways to do it, is important because it sort of lays the foundation for the conversations you have to have with people, because at the end of the day, like, and this is sort of a big part of what I've noticed in my job now is so much of what I do is education and coaching, because it's still a relatively unknown space. It's quite a small market. It's a small world. Most of us sustainability practitioners kind of know each other and know of each other. So it's sort of we need to kind of get it out there a lot more transparently.
And you had one thing we've spoken about in the past is you're like, when you had children, you mentioned to me as well that there was a shift there in what you wanted to do career-wise. And I really want to talk about that as well because that was part of what led you to sustainability too, in terms of as a career pathway and something values aligned for you.
Yeah. So when I did get into sustainability, obviously I was still working for the large design consultancy at the time. And given that sustainability was still sort of in its infancy, there was not a lot of understanding of like what the value was that I was trying to deliver. And so I struggled to kind of get that across with management. Like I wasn't at that point in my career where I was management. So I sort of had to rely on trying to convince management to take this seriously. And I did have some success. And I had, some wonderful managers to sort of thank for like championing that work and allowing me to do it. But a lot of the message I did get at the time was bottom line. Yeah. Is this making me money right now? If it's not, don't spend any time on it. And that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And so when I moved to the States after getting married and went, okay, I'm kind of done with the big consultancies. I don't want to be, a cog in this big money-making machine. It just didn't feel good. I was like, this is, sustainability became that sort of space that I was like, this feels good. This feels like a really good way to use my engineering skills for the betterment of the world. And so I moved over to the US and fell pregnant at the time and then went, well, I'm not going to go into the back into the workforce. My husband was a US Marine at the time, so now retired. And, so that was tough moving to a country that doesn't have, a lot of parental leave policies, that kind of thing.
Like?
Well, I just didn't go because I arrived there and then shortly after found out I was pregnant and I went, well, there's no point in me going and getting a job. I won't have maternity leave.
No.
There'll be, the expectation for, 60-hour weeks is so much higher.
Yes.
The work-life balance isn't like it is in Australia. Like we're so lucky here that we have, I've known work-life balance my entire career. because I started in Australia where it was important and it was championed by my managers. So I just didn't have an interest to join the workforce over there, particularly with a newborn and a husband that was disappearing for like half a year at a time.
Yeah, makes sense.
No family around, all of that. So so that's
Did you have the baby in their health system as well over there?
Yeah. I mean, having a husband in the military, we were in the military health system, which is so much better.
I was going to say you would have had a good.
Didn't cost a thing. So it was really lucky. Like I look at my experience and we were in California. Like we were very privileged to have that and be able to live off a single military salary. We bought a townhouse. Like we all did that off his military salary and free healthcare, the whole thing. So I was super lucky to have that at that like really pivotal moment in my journey with becoming a mum. But while I was over there, I sort of started thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to do? I let my RPQ lapse. And then I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Because at the time, like I don't know if they do now, but at the time there just wasn't an option for, hey, I'm taking a career break because I'm having a child. Can I keep this qualification? I didn't look into it too much, but it just didn't seem like it was it was an option at the time. So like I said, it might have changed, but by the time I came back here, it's lapsed and I'm like, I'm not going down that road again. So I was thinking ways to like kind of keep my skills up. And by that point, I'd built a relationship with the founder of the Green Roads organization, which I'd been using in my the projects that I was able to do sustainability on. And so I'd built this relationship and she kind of called me up one day and was like, hey, would you be interested in joining our board of directors? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Why not? Had no idea what that was going to entail.
Yeah.
But I've always been sort of if it sounds good enough, I'll agree to do it before I think about it.
Can relate.
I mean, that's how I ended up in Abu Dhabi. I was like, why not? And so I said, why not again?
Say yes and figure it out later.
Right. So I thought, okay, why not? Got involved in that. That's like a whole, like being on a nonprofit board of directors is like a whole different board game. There's like voting and like all the, we used to joke that it was all pomp and circumstance. But it was really interesting to sort of see like a really different way for an organization to work like in the nonprofit space. And so that was really cool to be a part of. And I ended up becoming secretary at one point. And then my final year on the board, I was chair. So that was, I think like ended up being must have been 6 years all up. So that sort of wrapped up 2023. And that was sort of how I kind of just kept my foot in the door. And it was a great opportunity as a young mum to, keep upskilled and keep knowledgeable about what was going on, particularly in a sector that I was quite passionate about. Yeah, in coming back to Australia, I was just determined to be in the sustainability world. And I had met Scott previously on a project before and had seen that he was looking for some new employees. And I just sort of messaged him on LinkedIn and went, hey, how you going with that recruiting? And he's like, well, if you come back to Australia, I'd just employ you. And I was like, well, as it happens,
yay,
I'll be back in 3 months' time. So we just had an interview and I was on a road trip and on the coast of California, had an interview while I was sitting at a fish and chip shop and then I had a job. And that like just being able to go, this is where I want to be and have it be with someone I admired and someone who I know really like lives the values that he, you know, puts on the wall in the office, you know. That was really great to, you know, to sort of be a part of. And, you know, at the time, like you mentioned before, being a mum, like my whole perspective had shifted. Because sure, I could have come back here and joined a big firm and, you know, chased the big paycheck and all of that, but it just didn't feel like me anymore. And what felt more like me was really aligning with my values and working out exactly what that was. And going, you know, I just felt like previously I'd kind of sold my soul a little bit for a paycheck. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested in like essentially like fighting with my own organization to do the valuable work that I really want to do.
Yeah.
I just want to do it. And so I think that's sort of, yeah, that's how I've ended up in a small boutique firm rather than a big corporation, just because, you know, we're here for a short time. Like, what kind of life are we living if we're not actually considering what our values are and being true to them?
Gave me goosebumps talking about that because that resonates with me so much. I think something happens, and I don't know if it happens for men as well. I can't speak, but for me, and for a lot of women I know, when you have children, it's almost like you start to see that it's bigger than you because they're going to have children, they're going to have families, and you're investing all this time and effort, you and your husband or partner in these humans that are growing and developing in the world. And I don't know, you know, it sounds like there was a shift there. And I think it's something that people don't often talk about, but you see it often that people might have a bit of a career change as they're raising a family as well. Yeah. And I think this values alignment is so, I say it all the time, it's so overlooked in organizations. And values is not what you put on the wall, it's what you live and breathe.
Yep.
And it's also how you show up when things are hard. Everybody can exhibit the values when things are great, but it's when the pressure's on, when things aren't going well. That's where I've always believed that's where people will show you who they truly are.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. One of the interesting things I actually did when I was pregnant with my son was I did my yoga teacher training because it's something I'd always wanted to do. Wasn't sure whether I was going to use it or not, but something I always wanted to do. And I kind of discovered by accident that I actually really like teaching people. And so it really gelled for me. And I did that training, and part of it was like looking at what your values are and being aligned with them. And I actually still have, what are we going on, like 9 years on, still have reminders in my like Google Calendar to do a values reassessment once a year and do a quarterly check-in. And it still comes up on my calendar. I refuse to delete it.
What are your values?
It's tough to sort of distill down into like words, right? You know, and when I do my values assessment, and I do redo them, and they change so often. Like, it's so surprising how often they'll change. But for me, justice is a huge thing. Which is funny. And like, if you talk to my husband, he'll be like, yes. Yeah. I feel really passionate about things being just, things being fair, things being equal, you know, opportunities being given to everyone. And I mean, I think as a woman, we all kind of get this, right?
Yes.
Particularly in a male-dominated field.
Yes.
That is the infrastructure industry. And so, yeah, so like those sorts of, that's probably one of my top ones. Truth's another big value of mine. But yeah, I mean, like I've alluded to sort of like care for the environment, you know, care for people, you know, and I think you mentioned it before as well. Like, you know, people will show you who they are in the tough times.
Yes.
And I've seen some ugliness in my career, and it's like, I'm just I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no. Why? Why can't we just be kind to everyone?
You were mentioning before as well something that stayed with you, which I think it'd be good to share on the podcast. Something that one of your leaders said about how to lead teams and lead people. Share with us that, because that aligns, I feel, with your values of being kind.
So my very first manager, and he sort of encouraged this, not just with me, but with the entire team. He encourages all to be friends. And so like a lot of the team, this is sort of back engineering days, so we were sort of junior engineers, junior drafts people, all of that. And we all worked quite closely together, but he would always encourage us to socialize outside, to the point where actually one year we all went on a ski trip together and he got in trouble for approving all of our leave applications at the same time.
So funny.
But it was great.
Yeah, the whole engineering team's gone.
Yeah,
they're skiing. It's really good team building.
But it was. But it was, because when push comes to shove, if overtime had to happen, and like I had to go and ask one of the draftsmen to like, hey, we've really got to get these drawings out at the end of the day. Would you mind staying a little bit late? Yeah. Yeah. Like you're more likely to do that for a friend than for someone you have a problem with. And so like our whole team was friends. We'd all go out to like pub lunch on a Friday together, and that was always encouraged. And like that's kind of stuck with me. And I've seen it a lot in, working for Losee Consulting now in this sort of small, tight-knit group, in that, we all enjoy each other's company, and, we know a lot about each other. We're like, it's cheesy. We're like a family, but like, and I think that can be quite unique to small organizations as well. Like you get more of an opportunity, I think, to do that, to build those relationships when your teams are small and you don't feel like just a cog in the machine, a number on a page. Because really, like at the crux of what we do is human interaction. Like we design, build these massive pieces of infrastructure through teamwork and through people. When we talk about projects and the dollar value and how many tons of concrete and stuff, I think I listened to your podcast with Sally Stannard, and I think she talked a bit about this, but behind all of those statistics, there's a bunch of people that all live normal lives, that have families, that have their own set of values, that, maybe having a tough time one week and celebrating something the next week. And that's going to influence how they work. And I think it's really important to remember that, and to remember like when the times get tough, that, we are all in this together. And to, keep that human element and make sure that, we're taking care of each other.
How have you found it? Because we were talking about this as well earlier, and I want to talk about it on the podcast too. How have you found the differences? Because there's pros and cons, and I'm a big believer there's a different role that suits every different person. None of us are the same, therefore different environments. Some people will thrive in the larger organisations in that kind of environment because that is their zone of excellence or zone of brilliance, and others will be, more suited to boutique consultancies. What have you found different? Because it's interesting to see, you work for the large ones, you work for what are some of the things that I guess surprised you, work with you? Like, tell me some of the differences you noticed.
Yeah, I think you're right in that, like, some people do like the big corporations. And, I said before, like, I like to think of myself as a Jill of all trades.
Yes.
I find sometimes in the big organizations, you're a little bit siloed. And I think some people need that. And it's definitely a personality thing. Like we could talk about the personality quizzes that you do, when it tells you like what, what's your best sort of working style. But I've definitely seen it in like the highly technical fields where, subject matter experts, like they need that silo.
Yeah.
Because they need to be the expert on that.
Yeah. And
you can't be, the saying is, jack of all trades, master of none, right? So, which I don't think the master of none is fine. Like some of us need to be that because some of us need to do the collaboration and management part. But then others need to be the experts for,
Yes.
the like Jill of all trades to like lean on and go, I know who to talk to about that. And that was something that I did do a lot of in the big consulting firm. I was always like, know who to talk to. Go up 2 levels, talk to such and such about the trees, go down here and talk to this person about the geotech and, constant communication. That worked well for me. Wanting to know a bit about everything. But it wouldn't have been the right working style if I wanted to be a subject matter expert. And I think it's made, sort of starting out that way, even though I wasn't in sustainability, has kind of made my sustainability career better for that working style. Because, we work on projects and you have to know a bit about all of it.
Yes.
You have to, one of the big things that I found I sort of coach and teach our more junior staff on a lot of is the engineering stuff. Is here's how to read a drawing, because so many of the people in the sustainability world have not come from an engineering background. So they may have never looked at like a drawing of a road in its design. Like they've certainly driven down them, but they look very different when it's on paper. And, being able to know where to get the right information without having that sort of oversight across so many different sectors, it's hard to sort of know, well, where do I find the answer?
Yeah.
And I think that's, as a sustainability consultant, I think that's a really key part of how we work, is knowing where to get the information from.
I've always thought, and just through the years of experience, like either resourcing for larger firms through to boutique consultancies, I feel like generalists do really well in boutique consultancies and smaller teams.
Yeah.
They absolutely thrive. Because I think what you're talking about, it can be really hard if you are a generalist in a large organisation and you're put in a box and it's like you do this part of the role. There's somebody over here that does that. There's somebody over there that does that. And you can almost sometimes feel stifled because it's like, I can actually do more, I can do more than this. Whereas I think sometimes if you put a specialist into a boutique consultancy, the rest of the team can feel it. And they're like, oh, why aren't they picking up extra? We need them to do more, but they're so comfortable in that specialist skill set. So I think you summed up really well. Like you've got that self-awareness, obviously, that you've developed to know I suit this kind of organisation because I am a journalist, I have a bit of knowledge in every space. And then you've even taken that a layer further to then go, well, actually, not only do I have this skill set, my skill set can help other people too. So I can train and mentor. The yoga I am really interested in. What is something, okay, and do you deal with breathing in yoga a little as well, right?
Yeah.
Apparently I don't breathe that well sometimes, I'm told, at the gym because I'm going too fast. So not fast by normal people's version, but fast by my very fastest version. What are some of the techniques, right, that you've developed in yoga now? You're working in a busy firm, small team.
Yep.
You and I both know it's peaks and troughs. You're all held together, like all like hands on deck. Oh my gosh, we've got all this work.
Yep.
Then it's quiet for a bit. Then it's, oh my gosh, we've got all this work. Like that cycle. How do you utilize those yoga skills and things like that to help the calm, help the breathing, all that sort of stuff? Tell me some tips.
So this is part of my job that I absolutely love, because I teach yoga to our staff every Wednesday. And, Scott's been wonderful in supporting that. Like he actually suggested it. And so we do it every single week and like without fail. And most of the time we have every single staff member there. Like it is the day that everyone comes into the office. So, so we start the week out with, I do like a mindfulness check-in in our like weekly meetings. I think the biggest thing is just prioritizing it, making the time, whether that is, through a small like little self-practice you can do between tasks. One of the sort of most popular like mindfulness tips from last year that we all kind of joke about, but everyone actually technically loves, was single tasking. You know, we work on many projects at a time, sometimes so many different, you know, things coming at us.
Yes.
And it's easy to jump from task to task and try to multitask, you know, and I mean, we're told as, you know, as women that we're great at multitasking. And while that may be true, doesn't necessarily generate the best results all the time. So single tasking, taking a moment to sit down and go, what's important right now? Taking a breath, slowing down that nervous system, because that's the big thing that just churns in the background if we're not paying attention to it, right? And then focusing on one thing at a time. Every week I do give a little sort of self-practice. It's usually like, you know, 2 to 5 minutes. And that can be anything from like breathing, you know, breathing exercises to just being aware of your surroundings. You know, mindfulness is all about paying attention in the present moment. And there's a million different ways you can do that. And that's what brings our nervous system down. You know, we don't get chased by tigers or bears anymore, but our nervous system still enters that fight, flight, or freeze state on a regular basis. We just might not notice it because the stresses are like tiny. They're an email. They're the Teams call that you're 10 minutes late for. And all of that builds up. And historically, when we were getting chased by that bear, we were running away from it. We were doing something physical. We were physically getting rid of the stress and the adrenaline from our system. But we don't do that anymore. We just sit at our desk.
Yeah.
And the stress comes on and it's so minor. We're like, you know, it's ridiculous. It's not stress. It's just an email, right? We can sit there and explain it away however much we want. But at the end of the day, the stress still builds up.
Yes.
And it builds up incrementally. And then we reach burnout, which we've all heard of. And it's not this, like, burnout's not this big thing that just kind of all of a sudden happens. It can look that way with, you know, getting sick really all of a sudden. But the crux of it is this just building of these little stresses that we're not dealing with. And so the way I like to you know, teach mindfulness is like, you don't have to go and meditate like in a corner for half an hour. Like, we're not monks. We have stress to deal with and it comes in bite-sized pieces. So let's deal with it in bite-sized pieces. And that might be like, you get that stressful email, you read it, you close it down, and you go make yourself a cup of tea and you do a breathing exercise.
What's a good breathing exercise? Box
breathing is a good breathing exercise.
Is that the one where you breathe? Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so it's going to be different for you than it will be for me. It depends on your lung capacity.
Singer, so give me a big one.
Yeah, so I always start like 4 counts.
4 counts?
And then go up or down from there.
Okay.
And so it's a breathe in for 4, and then you hold for 4, and then you exhale for 4, and then you hold for 4.
I'm feeling pretty chill. If you're driving, just
yeah, don't do it if you're driving. But yeah, it's just simple, and just count it in your head, you know. And if you're feeling extra stressed, you might find that it's 3 seconds and not 4 seconds. If you're feeling a bit more relaxed, it might be 6. The biggest things that will help with that is not judging yourself. So if you did it yesterday and you did 5 seconds, but today you can only do 3 seconds, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
You're not worse today than you were yesterday. You're not better the next day. It's just, it is what it is. You're dealing with what you're being dealt that day, and that's going to be different. So your breathing's going to be different.
Do you ever have those days, and I'm so hard on myself, which I'm working on, but do you ever have those days you wake up and you're like, for whatever reason today, I don't have as much to give.
Yeah.
But I've still got a lot to do.
Yeah.
How do you become good?
Regularly.
Not the only one.
Regularly.
What do you do on those? Does that mean be kinder to yourself on those days and just be okay with, I'm, my husband's really good at this. And he's like, of course, because you've been going 24/7 for like the last 5 days because you've been so busy, you're going to have those days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You get a crappy night's sleep.
Yes.
And then you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I've got back-to-back meetings. I've got to give a presentation. I've got to get this report out.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard. I always try and lean on the people around me. My husband and I are really good at communicating this. Like, I'm not feeling it today. I'm just exhausted. Let's just do takeout for dinner. Let's make it easy. Like, focus your energy where you need it and give yourself grace in the other spaces.
That's such good advice.
If that means you have to call that client and say, hey, can we just shift that meeting till tomorrow? Because it's not like an absolute right now priority, do it. You will better serve that client if you're in a better headspace.
Yeah.
So it can be delayed. I actually I say to our staff a lot of the time, like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
And I have a mug at work which says on it, saving PDFs, not lives.
I used to have this, you took me back. When I was at John Holland, we were really busy at one point. And one of the colleagues, we used to have a saying to each other, did anybody die?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we would say. Like, if the person's offer didn't go out, did anybody die? Yeah. Because we found that people would catastrophize when, a project was awarded. Oh my God, we need everybody.
Yeah.
No, but
what do you think your nervous system's doing then? It thinks a tiger's about to latch onto your neck, right? So it's not that serious.
Yeah.
We do have deadlines. Obviously, we want to meet them. We want to, do right by our client. But, I'd rather delay a day and give a really good result than a subpar result the day before. And I'd rather pick up the phone and talk to that person and say, hey, we actually had it last night. We had issues with a document being uploaded to the cloud, so I haven't had a chance to review a document. And, one of our staff members was like, oh, what do we do? We've got to get this in. And I'm like, just send them an email and just say, hey, we're having some tech issues. We'll get it to you tomorrow, but you want it to go through my review first. And it's fine. And they're like, okay, great. I look forward to seeing it.
We put this pressure on ourselves as well, don't we? Because we get this level of expectation of what we will deliver, when we will deliver. Yeah. And I don't know if you're I'm becoming better, but I think being in construction and infrastructure, you get so focused on deadlines and the deadlines.
Program.
Yeah. Program, deadline, immovable, cannot move. But then obviously for tenders, I get it. But for certain things, it's like, well, this is a deadline that we could move to get a better outcome or a better result. So it's stopping and being mindful and asking yourself, hang on, how can I ease this pressure on myself too?
But that's the giving yourself grace part. It's, okay, I can't keep all of these balls in the air. Like, which one? I can't remember where I heard it, but this analogy of we juggle so many things and some of those balls are made of rubber and some of them are made of glass. And we've got to work out which is a rubber ball and which is a glass ball. So which can't we drop and which can we let bounce for a day? And that glass ball might be your child at home sick. You can't drop that ball.
No.
The work deadlines for that day might all be rubber. Yeah. So let them drop. Let them drop. Maybe warn someone about it. Maybe just but I'm I love that analogy because it gives you something tangible to sort of
Sorry,
think
Scott,
of.
that was a rubber ball. I know I didn't let you know, but it was rubber, so it's fine.
It bounced. It's okay.
But I know exactly what you mean. One of the things I'm trying to be mindful of, and I've actually spoke to a couple of dads about this as well, in the last couple of weeks, because a couple of my clients sent me, because I book interviews for them, right, sent me their diaries, screenshots, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's no space there. And so one of the things we've been talking about and I'm curious about is how do you, because if our cortisol's heightened, if during the day there's all these micro stresses, how are we going home to to our family. I noticed it not this week, but last week. I was like, oh, I'm crabby. You know, when you know, you're like a little bit shorter and you don't know why.
Yeah.
I think it's because, and ChatGPT told me, you're not releasing exactly what you said.
You're not releasing your stress.
You're not releasing your stress.
You're not completing the stress response cycle.
Yes.
So like I said before, historically we would run away from the bear.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen like a nature documentary of an animal escaping the predator and then they go into a corner and they shake, that's their body physically getting rid of the stress. And then off they go back to the rest of their day. We don't do that. And movement is such a great way to actually do that. So, you know, going to the gym is like a great way. Having an active commute. Like I've been riding the e-bike back and forth and just popping on a podcast, cycling home. I feel so much better getting home. But in like this day and age of like hybrid working and we're all working from home half the time, I struggle more working from home than I do in the office.
Yeah, because we're not moving.
We're not moving, but we also don't have that boundary, you know, in the office. Like my desk setup is in our living room. So, you know, if I pick up, you know, like today I'll pick up my son from school, get home at 3:00 and I still got 2 hours of work left to do.
Yeah.
And he's dancing around in the background and I'm trying to do
How
work.
old is your son?
He's 8.
Oh, yeah. My son's 11, still dancing. Yeah.
Just
Climbing
craziness.
trees.
And then
I was
questions,
like,
questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's really hard to like,
I know.
just all the questions.
Isn't it so fun having smart children?
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't know that answer.
It was brilliant. I had a really, sorry, sidebar, but a very proud moment the other day. He came into me and he's like, Mum, we should buy an EV. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And he's like, well, then you don't have to worry about the price of diesel because the price of diesel is going up because of Iran. So I'm like, he's like, obviously, because he has so many questions. And we've always been if he has a question, we're answering it.
Yeah.
And so like we've got a world map on the wall and he asked a question about what was happening with the fuel prices and like why is it increasing? How can they do that? And we had this whole like geopolitics discussion the other week and he obviously soaked it all up and he's like, I know the solution. We just need to get an EV. And I'm like, I've raised you well, haven't I?
Isn't it so cute when they start to, because I've said this to other people as well, because I'm often the same. Like if I'm picking up, I'll be working and we don't realise they're also absorbing by watching us.
Yes.
You know.
So much.
My son's school captain the other day, he was in the car and he goes, it's hard, Mum, being a leader. And I was like, oh, really? Tell me about that. He goes, well,
I love it.
You've got to hold yourself to a really high standard. He's like, because it's about, you know, being inclusive and, you know, and you've got to make sure that, you know, you're setting the right example as well as, you know, you've got to do the tasks as well as like, as encourage other people. And I was like, yep, you're right. Like they're absorbing. And this is what, and I bang on it all the time about diversity, right, in engineering construction and making this industry, anyone that knows me knows I'm super passionate about it, about making this industry a place where men and women can show up, women and men, like we can make this work. I refuse to accept that we can't make it work.
Same.
Yeah, I like it's my life's mission to get more. My daughter wants to be an engineer, so like tick. Not from my influence. Well, I think so. She met Yasmin.
She's obviously absorbed some.
Well, it was Yasmin. It wasn't me. I tell people all the time. There was this Yas is an engineer at CPBs. She was sitting beside her at a NAWIC event, and she's just like, "Mum, do you know about engineering? It's so cool." I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I think that what we're doing right now as well, that I think I've started to realise is we're not just shaping our children in terms of the values and how we raise them and what we teach them. That is part of it. But it's what we show them.
Yeah.
That is so important.
Yeah.
And I think you've shown your son that it's important to have those conversations and question as much as you have to answer a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Can relate. But you're also showing him that that you can be a mum and you can contribute in your way that's meaningful to you with your work.
Yeah.
And I think more and more like I want to start. I tell women all the time. I was like, we can do both. We can.
Yeah.
It's going to look different. What it did for me. I think it makes me sad. I've spoken to people that go, but what about when I have kids? Like, how can I do this job? Well, you can do a version of it.
Yeah.
That works for you.
Yeah. But also you can just be a mum.
Yeah, that's fine too.
That's the other thing. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day. She was feeling, not great about sort of being a bit removed from like, what's going on in the world. She's like, I haven't really kept up with it. I feel like I need to like do something because she's a bit of an activist herself, but she's in like the toddler era with 2 boys. Whew. And she's just gone back to work.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't have the brain power to engage in the state of the world right now. And I gave her advice that I've given countless other of my friends who are mums. And it's another thing. I have no idea where I heard this, but motherhood in and of itself is activism. Because who has the largest influence on the next generation?
Oh, yeah.
We do.
Yes.
So it's like if you feel like you can't like get out and go to, a protest or like engage with like the news because it's like detrimental to your mental health, you're raising the next generation. And at the end of the day, like we're not going to change the generation above us that's in power. Like we're not. But we have a huge influence on the next generation. And I think that's one of the big things, like we talked about values alignment before. One of the reasons why I intentionally don't work a full-time week is because that is a huge value to me, to raising the next generation. Like, I want to make sure that what I'm doing at work gets passed on to them in like a physical sense of like the infrastructure we build and, the environments that we protect. But at the same time, it's like there's this whole human being as well that I have to like usher into adulthood.
Yep.
And like what a like incredible job that is. Like huge and huge job.
You have to shape it around. I said this to someone the other day because there's you have to think about yourself and your values and what you want. And I find after you've had children or you're raising a family and go, what is my new normal? Because sometimes I see mums that I talk to, they're judging the yardstick of their success on a completely different version of who they were back then. Yep. I mean, I do drop off or pick up every day. I worked, and what's funny is, and only some people know, I worked 3 days a week while my kids were little until they started school, and I didn't tell anyone. I kept it a secret. Because it makes me sad now because I felt I had to, because if I told people that they wouldn't feel that I was as committed, whereas I'm like, why do we have this narrative? Whereas I was so committed, and like the reality was I definitely did more than 3 days work.
Well, the thing is we don't have that narrative.
No.
The industry still does.
Yeah.
The industry still does. I had an experience on a project probably about 2 years back now. There's a construction project, and I remember sitting in a meeting with the project manager, and I made a comment like, oh, I've got to wrap this meeting up at 2 because I've got to get, and I was down the Gold Coast. I had to get all the way back to, for school pickup. And I'm like, 2's, I'm out, hard out at 2.
Yeah. And
his comment was, oh, working a short day today. And I was just like, so nothing's changed, has it? And that was like, it was just really defeating because, I've been in this industry since 2004.
Yeah.
And, back when I go out on a construction site and get called sweetheart and pumpkin and, and all the like overtly misogynistic stuff. But I still go to a construction site and get snide remarks like that from a project manager. And with an anti-discrimination policy on the wall.
Oh, I just feel like I'm just sad that we're not past that, you know?
Yeah. I was like, what
Really?
have we been doing for the last 20 years?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. What?
I love it.
It was just shocking to me.
I feel like I love it when some of my clients were like I was talking to one the other day and he works for a design consultant. He's like, I'm just taking my kids to soccer. I'm like, hi kids. Like I love that connected, like you talk about being friends with your staff as well. I have that often, that relationship with my clients where I get to know them and know their kids and I love that.
Yeah.
That I think when you love small business and love your clients, you know, not in a weird way, but you know what I mean, you genuinely like them as people.
Yeah.
I think seeing those sides is really important. But then I think as well, the problem that you have is that whether they like it or not, they're modeling now what they've said by saying that to you. And I say this all the time to people, what you say is one comment, but it's not just the person you've said it to. You've set the expectation to everyone now in that room that they can't leave to do pickup.
Yep, exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like we're at a point right now, this is an industry where outcomes, we can measure on outcomes because things have to be done by a certain time. So why are we still in the archaic place where we can't pick up our kids and finish some work later or get the work done however we need to?
Well, what this project manager didn't understand was I was going to pick up my son, take him home and then work till 6 o'clock. He had no idea about that. It was not a short day for me. But it was the image that he'd painted of me in front of other people.
Did you call it out at the time or not?
I did. I said, no, it's not a short day.
Yeah.
And then I still walked out at 2, obviously. I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows us as well, and I really hope that there's what we're seeing as well with this next generation or Gen Z, you know, people bang on and whinge about it all the time, but there's some really good things that they have seen from the generation prior. And I think every generation has lessons or learnings from the previous generation that they, you know, impart or that they want to learn. Like I feel like Gen Z, as they talk about, it's coming through and going, no, we want balance. And no, the environment is important and we care about that. So what we're going to see is a whole new generation of leadership coming through, and that kind of makes me a bit excited too. Yeah,
I'm excited to see it ramp up some change.
Yeah.
and get a little quicker because, I'm sorry, 20 years is a long time to wait.
Yes.
You know, for real systemic change. Yeah, it comes down to, like you sort of alluded to it before, like, you know, he made that comment in front of other people and that delivered a message. But also, you know, in that same room, there wasn't other people that spoke up about it. And, you know, the bystander effect is huge. And if we're not willing to call it out when it happens, it's just going to keep going.
It's a lot easier. I say this to people all the time. It's actually a lot easier if you're a bystander to call it out than the person.
100%.
You feel like when someone says something to you, you feel like this big at the time because it takes you off guard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to respond when you're off guard. But somebody else that's observing could easily pipe up, especially a colleague or a peer, and go, hey.
Yeah.
You know, I've had someone on the podcast previously and he is a legend because one of his colleagues told me he does that for her. He calls out and says, she hasn't finished. You know, we're not calling the meeting like this is her time. Like he will speak up.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we're at right now. This is where I think the change's going to come from. It can't be all on us as women in the industry to shift it. We need help.
Yeah, we need male allies to stand up.
We do.
And we always have. And like I've certainly found them throughout my career. Like, you know, I've certainly found some bad eggs, but I've also been supported by some wonderful managers.
There's some amazing ones, yes.
Yeah. And I think like that, particularly for a woman in a male-dominated industry, having the support of their male counterparts is huge. Yeah. And makes such a difference, like just in that day-to-day, the day-to-day stuff, like whether it's within your organization or your clients, it changes the whole way you work. You know, we can go back and talk about the stress response cycle again because, you know, if you go into an environment that feels unfriendly or unsupportive, you're already on edge. And so then anything that's said to you, you know, whether it's like getting comments back on a report, if you feel that space is not friendly, you're going to take that feedback in a very different way to if it was coming from a person that you sort of felt safe in the interaction with. And yeah, it's such a big part of how we work. Like we talk about, you know, it's all people doing this. And, you know, if we can't be kind to each other in all our interactions, even if you're reviewing a report that does need to be torn to shreds, like call them first and say, hey, this really didn't meet my expectations. Can we go through it? I had an instance recently where we got a ton of comments back on a report that we just did not expect. And at first it sort of felt like, oh, okay, these comments just feel a bit passive aggressive. I don't like them. And I went, look, let's get on a call and clarify some of these comments because they were unexpected. And they didn't really come with any sort of background as to like why it was happening. Yeah. And we got on the call and we finally understood that the person making the comments was specifically asked to interrogate this report in a certain way. And we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now that makes sense. And she's a lovely person to interact with anyway, which obviously made the interaction so much better because it was a friendly interaction rather than like, oh gosh, she's going to tear our work apart. But that perspective shift was like, oh, okay, well maybe in future we need to read the comments from a kinder lens. And like, because you can't read tone, right?
No.
Because you can't read tone, you can apply whatever tone you want to them. So you can say, I'm going to choose to read these in a kind tone and read them in a kind tone. And if they're still confusing, talk to the person. Because the tone that you get on a Teams call is going to be so different to what you get.
It's so true.
On paper.
I can't count the amount of times. And one of the things they talk about when you're doing organisational coaching and when you're using the GROW model, they talk about you want to be able to stretch the person you're coaching, but you can't stretch them too far. And so you've got to like to the point. They're not going to grow if you don't stretch them, but it's like this delicate balance of how far to stretch or how far, as you'd know through your yoga coaching and things like that as well.
Yeah.
One of the things I find interesting is that it's harder when you're dealing with clients and you're, the consultant as well, because constantly you're kind of judging with each other, how far can we stretch this? Because it's an engagement where you're challenging each other. So in many ways, I think that kindness and that focusing on the relationship and not shooting off emails is so important in professional services and consulting, because sometimes the email feels quicker. But and I've been guilty of it. Oh, it's just quick. I'll get it off my desk. Yeah. But then that mindfulness you talked about as well is like, hang on, do I call first? How's this going to be received? Yeah. I'm getting it off my desk, but at what cost as well?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes back to how we work these days. We work very remotely.
Yes.
And everything's a Teams call. Back when the whole first 12 years of my career, it was if you're meeting with a client, you're going to their office or they're coming to your office and you get that personal interaction, everyone turns up a bit early. Hey, how was your weekend? How's family? And you actually get to know all these people that are going to be the ones giving you this feedback. But we don't do that anymore.
No.
Everyone joins the call right on the dot, quite often with their cameras turned off. So you don't even know what this person looks like. And then they leave at the end. Okay, we're done. Bang, gone. And you wouldn't even know. I find I struggle to remember people now more than ever before because I don't get to see their face on a regular basis. I get to see their initials in a circle. I actually had a not so great interaction with someone on a project in a Teams call, camera off, had no idea who this person was. The way they talked to me was horrible. And then the following week, I walked into a meeting in that side office, unknowingly sat down right next to that person. And then as soon as he started speaking, I recognized his voice and was like, oh.
Mm.
And it was a weird feeling to be like, oh, okay, you were mean to me on a Teams call and kind of anonymously last week. This is the first time I've ever actually met you in person.
Mm.
And like, I didn't even realize it. And it just, as soon as he started speaking, I was like, I felt the stress come back because I was like, because it was an unsafe environment.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And I was like, and I've had a couple of interactions over Teams with people who have their cameras turned off, that little bit of anonymity.
Yeah.
You know, and one step removed from that human element, and they're saying things that they would never say sitting across the table from you.
And can we just turn the cameras on? Can I just call it?
We've started doing that.
Can
We've
we
started
just turn the
saying,
cameras on?
if you're in this workshop, your camera's on.
I'm a
if
big
you
believer.
can't turn your camera on, you're not prepared for this workshop.
I
please leave.
am a big believer. I'm like, I will say it.
I have it on every single time.
Yeah, same.
Every single time, without fail. I can be in a meeting of 30 people and I've still got my camera on.
Why should other people have their cameras on in a meeting?
Why do you get to be anonymous?
Yeah.
It's like
turn your cameras on.
It's as if we're sitting in a room and you're facing the wall.
Yeah.
While we're talking.
It actually is.
That's how it feels.
But you're facing the wall but still piping up with your feedback. So you're not engaged.
Yeah.
So you've got the camera off, facing the wall, giving your feedback.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's no body language. Like we're human beings. We are not meant to communicate via radio waves. Like we're meant to speak one-on-one, eye contact, like body language, like all of that. And like I think so many of the issues that we face with these human interactions is because we're all digital now. And it's like the comments on the report from like a name you don't recognize that you're reading in the wrong way, in the wrong tone, to, you know, someone with that little bit of anonymity being able to be mean to you without ramification. So, yeah, one thing that we've started to employ is that first meeting on a project is always in person.
Yeah.
I want to connect with you as a person before we're working because then I can get around all this other stuff.
Yep.
You know, and I'm going to turn up early so we can have a little chit chat.
I love that.
And I'm going to get to know you and I'm going to ask you how your day is and how's your week. And every opportunity that I have to be in person, I'm going to be in person.
I love to do, so often we'll have with recruitment timeframes a shorter timeframe. So we will have and we do structured interviews. So we'll do like a team structured interview, but I will always meet that person for coffee either before they start. And I do it that way intentionally. The interview, it's not a two-way chat, right? The interview's often, it kind of is, but like it's me querying them and assessing them for a role, right? But then the coffee, you just get to know them at a deeper level. You get to know their kids. One of the ladies made me buy a skylight calendar. Shout out if she's listening. Like she's like, you're buying that calendar now, you know, and the coffees and those casual relationships are so valuable, but we don't incorporate them enough. And we need to, like, it needs to be in your structure. I get, you know, maybe if there's an urgent thing and it has to be done, I get it. Yeah. Do that thing if you need to, but arrange a space where you can have that face-to-face contact, because the stuff you get out of that relationship is so much stronger.
It really is. Like I remember as a young engineer, you know, going down to, you know, the TMR office for a meeting, and we'd walk. If it was close enough, we'd walk and it would be me and my manager and we'd have a chat along the way and he'd be sort of coaching me and then he'd be like, yeah, you can run the meeting.
We've lost that.
But if it was just, we have totally lost that. And it's like, you know, I mean, everyone wants the flexibility and the flexibility is great. And hey, I take full use of it. I work from home twice a week.
I know.
You know, I go into work. Sometimes I do pick up and leave early. Like the flexibility, like it 100% needs to be there because that's how we bring the sort of the gender equity piece into it. But the importance of being, you know, in the same physical space as your staff, as your client is, I think it's just valued a little less now because we can just jump on a call. And while that seems great for productivity, I think the idea of productivity is not necessarily correct in that I have to be productive on my computer all the time because I think it's added additional pressure to employees because now you're expected to do so much more of the physical work than you used to be because you used to have to allow for that time to walk to a meeting, to sit down and have coffee. There was always 15 minutes before and after a meeting that would just be socializing, essentially. And it was all baked in and it was like, but that was how we worked. And we don't have that now. So that half an hour that used to be dedicated to that is now dedicated to more productivity. And so we take on more work now. And whilst it's great to have the technology to be able to be more productive, I think the way we look at productivity probably needs to change because to me, those social interactions are productive because they're a way to improve the value that we deliver clients.
And collaborative contracting, which is what we're talking about, as an industry at the moment too. The other thing we're not allowing ourselves to do that I've noticed is the transitions. You know, how you mentioned before, say you've had a meeting and it's about a project and it's not going great and everyone's, it's quite a tense meeting. You're often going from that meeting straight into the next one. So that tension that's built, all of that, if you're not giving yourself, you don't have it like a 15 to 20 minute transition that's building throughout the day.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It's it's those water cooler conversations and the transitionary piece too.
Yeah, that's it's one of the topics that I brought up in our mindful moments on Mondays was, transitioning between meetings, between tasks, and like making a point, whether that's just standing up and turning around. Like it can be anything. Taking 3 deep breaths before you press join on the next meeting. Taking a sip of water, like it can literally be anything. Like I said before, like mindfulness doesn't have to be this like huge like meditation practice and like gratitude journaling and like all these big things that feel so unachievable on a daily basis. They can just be those really small moments in between the busy.
Yeah.
That you just go, my body needs this. I need this to be effective. And I'm going to take the time, and if it means being a minute late to that next meeting, I'm going to provide more value in that meeting if I sit here and take a breath and calm my nervous system down and regroup. And like that's all like just in habit forming and, working out what the tools that are available, because there's so many different ways, like I think I just listed off 5 different ones.
You did, yeah.
Working out like what you respond to, because like, maybe breath work isn't for you. Maybe it's just closing your eyes and going, what can I hear? And like, just getting really like present and going, okay, I'm here. I'm not being chased by a tiger. It's just another meeting. And then moving through.
Love that. And so what's the legacy you want to leave for the work that you have been doing and in your life in general?
If I'd zoom right out, I want to leave a kinder place. Just in general. I mean, I think that encompasses everything, whether that be personal life, the interactions we have at work, or even the infrastructure that we build, like kinder and more thoughtful.
I'm going to ask the rocket round now. And the rocket round, I'm just going to start making it up because I've done the same one and I'm just a bit sick of it that I've done for, I don't know, nearly 90 episodes.
All right, I'll be the guinea pig.
I did try another one last week. What's something no one knows about you?
I'm a bit of a silly goose.
I love
but
that.
I feel like some people do know that
yeah,
about
that's
me.
okay. But it's something that's not widely known. That you're a bit of a silly goose. You do
No.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a silly goose, and I'm a very passionate dancer.
Oh, that's good. We've got a silly goose dancer. I love that.
Yeah.
And what's an irrational fear you have?
Oh, it's an irrational fear. I mean, related to work, I guess, an irrational fear that like I'm going to be found out to just not be good. But I think that's the imposter syndrome sort of situation. And I'm like, I'm going to call it an irrational fear because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
It is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's
still there.
Yeah.
It's still totally there.
And what's a book or a podcast or something you've heard that stayed with you, that you've either read or heard, that stayed with you and it's something that you bring up again?
Oh, there's a book called The Big Leap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've come across it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned at the start, like Sphere of Excellence or something. And that book was recommended to me by my yoga teacher training instructor as something to read at the start of every year, particularly if you're wanting to like level up, like in any aspect of your life. And they talk about being in your, now I'm going to have to remember this correctly, your zone of excellence, your zone of competence, and your zone of genius.
Yeah.
And there's those things, and you can get a job in either of them. So like my engineering career was probably I would say my zone of excellence. You know, your zone of competence is like you can do it, plenty of other people can do it. You know, and that's sort of where you can kind of sit. Zone of excellence is like you do it really well, but there are other people that do it really well. And then zone of genius is this is something really unique to you, and this is something that you do, and either nobody or very, very few other people do it. And that's kind of where you need to find. Like, what's your zone of genius?
I think I've read this book. I think
it's really good. It's really good. I just have an audiobook version of it on Audible, and I just stick it in my ears. And sometimes I only listen to half of it.
Yeah.
But I just like that, and there's so many other concepts in it.
Yeah.
But that concept I've applied to myself, but also to when, you know, looking at the skills of like our staff and going, okay, this one over here has a zone of excellence in this space or a zone of genius in this space. So let's work with that strength and like build the others up, but like let's focus on that. And I think in a small organization, you kind of have to, you know, be a bit more of the, you know, Jill or Jack of all trades. But at the same time, it's like find those strengths.
Yes.
Find what works for you. Find what you have that like really unique perspective or skill in doing, and lean into it because it'll always bring you success.
Love that.
So, and I think for me, I found that was probably in teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching, coaching.
Love it. And we always, like one of the things we used to think that we had to try and change everyone's weaknesses, but then research, and if you look at strengths-based, Gallup strengths, all the strengths-based shows us that we can far outperform when we focus on our strengths and building those than taking, what is it? I think it was like the data showed it to move like a weakness by a tiny amount could take like 6 months plus, but a strength, like it's compounding the more you build on it. So I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Had so much fun. Really enjoyed our chat. And I think we talked about everything from sustainability to family. And I think, you know, there's so much that you've brought from your yoga that carries onto your career as well, and helping the firm where you work as well as your clients too. So really appreciate it. How can people connect with you, learn more about what you do?
Well, LinkedIn is probably the best way, you know, or email, I guess.
Yeah,
So
sounds
I don't know
good.
if you put that in there.
Well, they'll connect with
Notes
you
or
and they
anything,
can grab
but-
your email on LinkedIn. Yeah, that way. And we find that a lot of people connect with the guests after that as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If this episode gave you new insights, don't let them go to waste. Take action, apply them. And if you want more insider strategies from the best in construction and infrastructure, make sure to subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the leaders who open the most doors aren't waiting for opportunities, they're building them.